Welcome to the Soar podcast, the place for creative entrepreneurs with limitless dreams and unconventional stories. I'm your host, Ray Hyde-Cornell, founder and business mentor at Chiron Consulting and CEO and senior copywriter at Cornell Content Marketing. My goal is to bring you stories of what's possible so you can never tell yourself that your dreams are impossible. So welcome to the Soar podcast. Today we have Mark Stone of the Mark Stone Writing Group. So Mark, tell us a little bit about what you do and what your business is.
Hey Ray, great to be here. I am a content/copywriter, mostly working with big tech companies. Because my background is in IT and cybersecurity. And I mostly write thought leadership copy or content blog posts for large tech companies. And it's really fun and I'm enjoying it. And I don't see this ending anytime soon, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, you're in the process of growing. You're actually in that kind of early transition period from being a solopreneur, solo business owner, doing all the things, wearing all the hats, and you're transitioning into more of that agency model. Is that right?
A little bit, yeah. Maybe not so much an agency model, but definitely where I am trying to not be writing all the time and spending all my time like creating content or copy, where I do have a few other writers that work for me that can, turn out some copy or content, and then, it just takes the time for me, that gives me more time to either grow the business more or just spend time on the writing that I really like, that's giving me a little bit more fulfillment. So, and you obviously know all about that being
so doing less of what you don't enjoy and doing more of what you do enjoy.
Right. And I think that's what we all want, really.
Yeah. So one of the many reasons why I really wanted to have you on the show is because you are one of the only writers I know, and I know a lot of writers. You're one of the only writers I know who writes for massive multinational brands consistently. And you are, until probably about a year ago, you have been a solo operation. So tell me about that. How did you get into writing for these? And I'll leave it to you if you want to name drop who your clients are, or some of them, or not. But how did you get into writing for these big brands that pretty much anybody would recognize right off the bat?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'll try to make a really long story short. I mean, obviously it helps having a background in IT where I used to work for IBM. So I understand, I guess, how the big multinationals work and their process and whatnot, even though I was not working for them in the writing or content capacity at all. It was more a tech thing. So then when I decided to leave the government, I was working for the government doing cybersecurity. When I decided to do my own thing and start writing, it was a long process, and I'm sure we'll probably discuss that a little after. But in terms of getting in with the big brands, I think I put up a profile on Contently, which is a content marketing platform. And I got noticed at the time, I was actually writing about celebrity gossip and entertainment. So it was totally different and totally fun for me because, I mean, who doesn't love that stuff, right? Like, it was just so easy and fun. And I was noticed by NBC Universal, who wanted me to start writing blog posts and content for their stuff and their Tumblr, even their like Tumblr back in the day.
When was Tumblr a thing? Can't even think that far back.
Yeah, Tumblr, remember that? So I was doing that, and the editor on the Universal, he eventually moved to Forbes. Like he went moved on to Forbes, and then knowing that I had a tech background, he brought me in to Forbes Brand Voice, which is their content marketing platform for Forbes. And so I started writing for some pretty big brands through Forbes Brand Voice. And then it just kind of like in I guess in freelancing, as you just kind of level up. And because I was already writing for Forbes and writing for these big brands, it was a more of a natural progression to say, I don't know if it was Dell Technologies or IBM, where I just reached out to someone and then they said, "Oh, I can introduce you to so and so at IBM," even though IBM is such a big company, and even though I work for them, don't know everybody because it's just so big. And eventually, it just kind of works out, and then you just kind of, as you get the confidence of like, oh, I'm writing for, IBM or Dell Technologies. Now I could pitch myself to other big brands, and then other brands will kind of get to know you, and like in Samsung reached out, like, and so it just kind of
So Samsung reached out to you.
yeah, and
I feel like you're a celebrity now.
yeah, and it's kind of weird, like you almost just don't think about it, but it just happens. And I think with Samsung, I think they were actually one of the first, when I got on with Forbes Brand Voice, I think they were one of the first companies to write under the Forbes, like it was on the Forbes website, but it's Forbes Brand Voice / Samsung, whatever. So it's all thought leadership by Samsung that's posted on the Forbes content platform. So it's, more SEO, better visibility for them.
Yeah.
To be seen on the Forbes site for thought leadership. So I already had a little bit of experience with Samsung, so that. But yeah, it's kind of a weird way of getting there, but a lot of it.
It's interesting because I was actually just talking with one of my freelancer clients about this just earlier today, actually, where we were talking about how she's finally reached this point in her business where she's decided the type of client that she wants to work with. Before, she was doing a little social media, she was doing about pages, she was doing blog content, she was doing ghostwriting. And she was kind of dabbling in everything that she could get her hands on, which you kind of have to do in your early stages to figure out what you like. But now that she has honed in, some people call this niching down or, whatever you want to call it, but I don't really like the niching down concept because that makes you feel like you have to pick an industry, which in your case you did do. You picked tech, but for my company, for example, not this one, Cornell, we've niched down into a particular type of service and a particular perspective and philosophy on how we do our work. So it's not so much that you have to niche into an industry, but just getting crystal clear on what you want to do, everything starts to snowball. Instead of your energy being diffused across so many different projects, and for you, it sounds like it was celebrity gossip and, kind of the entertainment industry and a little tech because you had that in your background. Once you honed in on tech, it really started to snowball and you just got name brand after name brand after name brand.
Yeah, I think so. And that, yeah, it was because you don't want to think of yourself as niching down, like you say, and pigeonholing yourself into a certain. But yeah, it just kind of you find and tech is so broad, and just like B2C is so broad, or whatever it is, whatever industry you're kind of in, like even say you're in healthcare, like say you're a healthcare, that is so broad, like there's that it's not as narrow as we think. So if you're in tech, like that can mean so many different things.
And yet, even though it is so broad, it gives you the traction for people to start associating, oh, Mark Stone, tech writing. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, I know someone who's in tech who needs that. They might be in cybersecurity. And someone else goes, oh, I know someone who's in tech who needs that, but they might be in app development.
Right.
And suddenly you become the referral for all kinds of different tech writing, even though it's such a broad category.
It is, yeah. Tech is incredible. Even cybersecurity, I find, is super broad. It never was when that was my career in cybersecurity. It was very, like, very, very, very niche. But now, though, because of everything and the pandemic and work from home and everything, it's just so broad. And even in cybersecurity, there's like different niches, and it's really interesting to some of it is really, I find fascinating, and some of it is just way too techy, and it's just like I don't know this stuff.
Yeah. So that's another good point. Like you just said, I don't know this stuff. I don't want to write about this. I love that you have that humility, you have that level of confidence and comfort in yourself as a writer to be able to say, I don't know shit about that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take that project or I'm not going to talk to that client. Even though you have this resume that would just blow people's minds in the types of clients that you've worked with, you still admit that you
Oh,
don't know anything about this thing over here.
I know, and sometimes, like, depending on the type of project, if I'm writing a thought leadership piece in which a subject matter expert is required and an interview is required, so that so at least I sound like I kind of know what I'm talking about, by at least talking to them and getting their quotes and their perspective. And that's a few things I'm working on right now. Things I really don't know enough about, but because I have I've always been really good. One thing I know that I'm good at is like just reaching out to anybody, and like no matter how big they are in their industry, and just like picking up the phone and just saying, hey, can I interview you for whatever. I was good at that with entertainment, and I got myself into really cool situations and clients and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
do that with cybersecurity. Like I'll just reach out to like top name people and just say, hey, like I want to interview you because I don't know this shit, but you do.
And what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
They don't respond to your email, they don't pick up your call, or they say no. And then
Right.
you haven't lost anything. You're still in the same, not even bad, but neutral situation that you were in before. So I think that's one thing that holds a lot of freelancers back, whether it's pitching a client or reaching out for a resource. They go, oh, I don't want to bug them. I'm afraid to reach out. What if they say no? Well, so the fuck what? What if they do say no?
Yeah,
What if
exactly. And that's the whole thing about pitching. Like I was talking about it from a subject matter expert perspective, but from pitching, that's the biggest thing. It's like if you're starting out as a freelancer and you're just worried about, oh, like I don't want to bug them, or oh, they're too big for me, like get over that shit. Like that's the biggest thing, and it does take a while. Like I don't know about you, I think you probably got over it faster, but for me it took like a couple of years of just like just quashing those self-doubts and limiting beliefs about where you could take your business, and who you could work with. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of self reflection and work that we all need to do.
Absolutely. And it does take time. I think for me, the tipping point, I don't know how long it took me. I really couldn't say. But I do know that it was at a point where I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like something has to change in my business. I'm tired of just scraping by every month. I'm tired of doing $25 blog posts. I'm tired of just giving, and not getting what I need. So fuck it. I'm going to reach out to whoever I need to, do whatever I need to make this happen. Because the only way for me to go is up. It's really my only option. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. And for everybody it's a different. I mean, whether that's just out of necessity that you need to eat, you need to put food on the table, like pay your mortgage, whatever, or or it's just you really want to grow your business, and you just decide that, okay, today's the day, or over the next, you make a plan over the next quarter, I'm going to do this. And it really does help to actually, they say it's, it's maybe cliche, but when I started to actually write, obviously as a writer, we use keyboards all the time, but actually write with pen and pencil, which I'm so bad at. Like I have the worst writing. Like doctors are like, you got really shitty writing, boy. But, but just actually writing numbers like, okay, I'm going to make whatever, like for the 5K this month or whatever, it has this weird way of kind of working itself out. Like it's a little out there, but it does somehow work. Like, maybe not to the dollar figure, but it, once you start and develop a practice of doing it, like whether, even if it's just once a quarter, just say, okay, this is what I want to do this quarter, and just write it out and be specific too. Don't just write down 10,000 and that's it. Right. You have to, like, how am I going to get to the 10,000? Like, I'm going to pitch so-and-so and so-and-so, or my current clients, I'm going to level up with them, or I'm going to do more, and just be really specific. And I find for me that helps quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because I don't think you've ever received or read the free 8-day manifestation course that I have available. But that's really the key point. Is a lot of people think that they're doing this manifestation work, they're goal setting, they're doing affirmations, and they're saying, mantras in their head, but it really doesn't do anything until you bring it into the physical world. And what you said was, it really changed for you when you started putting pen to paper and you started actually physically writing those things out. And that's literally the last step that it takes in order for those things to happen for you. So I love that you said that, even though like you had no idea that I had said that.
You've actually said that before. Yeah. And I've never been like that guy that takes down notes, and I still don't really do it much. I'm trying more, even just for, day to day or week to week kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just that when I started to do it, things just start happening. I don't know how that works, whether the universe just kind of works out that way, but yeah, and it is very like, it's not just this, it's not like the secret where you're just like, oh, I'm just going to put it out to the universe. Like there has to be some practicality behind it. Yeah. If you do, like, you just kind of follow up with yourself and hold yourself accountable, or have a good accountability buddy, do it. Yeah. But yeah, like I think that it's really key to.
So one of the things that I've noticed about your business in particular, because you and I, we've been friends for what, like going on 3 years now or something, like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I've really gotten to see, we meet every month and we talk about our goals and, what challenges do we have? What ideas do we have? What resources can we share? That sort of thing. And in so many people I know who are running their own businesses, they think that they have to have this massive growth, massive transformation in the span of 6 months, 12 months. And what I love about your perspective on owning a business is you've always taken it very steady. You never say, I'm going to go from 10K a month to 30K a month. You look at, how can I incrementally just increase this a little bit? And it's that slow and steady perspective that sets you up perfectly for longevity, because you don't get to that point of burnout or, scaling so quickly that you can't now handle all the work that you have. So how did you learn that was right for you?
Oh, that's an amazing question, and difficult too. I don't really know. I think it's a matter of when I got to a certain goal of like being really comfortable with income that like there's enough to pay bills and everything, and to live comfortable and travel and do things. It just was like, where there's probably a tipping point there where if I go just a little more, or maybe like 20-30% more to get to that next like big revenue goal, like how much extra like, and maybe it's only 20% more in revenue, but it may require 50% more of my time, or it may be less. Like it could be, I could probably be working smarter and work less and get there. But I think I've figured out a good way over the, last 3 or 4 years where it's been pretty good and steady. I've figured out a good way of working it smart in terms of what is my hourly rate. And I always try and think of that, like how many hours am I putting in? What is my revenue for the month, and what does that work out to be per hour? And if you have a good number in your head, if I stick to that, it's like, okay, that's good. Like I don't want to get myself into a situation where it's just too overwhelming, even though now, like, I'm busy enough that I like, as we talked about earlier, that I am growing a bit and want to work with more writers to help me. I'm still, not crazy where I'm just like losing my head.
Yeah. And that's the whole point. I mean, it's quality of life.
Yeah. Quality of life, yeah. And there's days for sure. Like last weekend, I was like, I try not to work on weekends, but when you have enough, whatever, if you take a day off, which we did, I just spent all day Sunday working. But that's cool. Like it just kind of works itself out. And I'm trying to get good at scheduling more and like task management and project management, like for myself, because I usually just kind of use willy-nilly. Like I schedule time and schedule, have due dates and everything, but it's all like just using calendar, because if I'm an out guy and everything just kind of syncs well with the watch, it's good. But I think I'm at a point now where I should really kind of level up a bit in project management.
I think it comes with moving into that more team model. When you're going solo, you can really use anything you want. You can use a piece of paper and a pen if you want to. But once you're working with a team, once you're delegating articles to your writers, you have to have something shared where they can reference due dates, their due dates, due to client dates, editing dates, all of that as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm finding, and I'm working with a new old client that now has they're using Asana and like their task management, and I really like it. So I'm trying to, kind of duplicate that for my own.
Yeah. So, we use Asana too. I'm a huge Asana fan.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting to kind of see the benefits, even though I used it a long time ago, and you just kind of lose touch with it because there's so many tools.
Monday and ClickUp and Trello, and oh my God, I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah.
And I think another point to that maybe, and I used to fall into this trap, like as an early freelancer, you get caught up in the tools and all the like, oh, if I use this project management software or this, and then you spend so much time on the like kind of thinking about, oh, this when I get busy, I'm going to really use this, so I'm going to really learn this, and you fall into that trap, or you fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm just going to read all these books and listen to all these podcasts and do all this stuff. And sure, that's important. But if that's what you're focusing your time on, like, once I learn all this, I'll get better.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to start, there comes a time you have to just start doing.
Yeah.
So at least
I think that's it's a big resistance tactic that a lot of early freelancers kind of fall into a trap with, because there's still that confidence issue of, can I really do this? Can I be a writer? Can somebody pay me for something that I love to do? There's that internal questioning. And so we just allow ourselves to get immersed in setting up the tools and getting everything perfect and setting up the systems and getting Dubsado perfectly branded and beautiful. And it's like, what are you doing? You're distracting yourself from the thing you actually have to go do, but that you don't have the confidence to do, but you got to go do it anyway to get the confidence.
And I was so guilty of that. Like, I remember when I first started to kind of get some gigs, and they were really crappy paying, like really shitty. And
We've all been there.
what's that?
We've all been there.
Yeah,
Man.
no, like so bad.
Pieces for car manufacturers writing about all the different types of Volvo and Ford and Chevy models. And I'm like, oh my God, I so don't fucking care about this.
Yeah, and even for stuff I did care, like there's one outlet that I really cared about. Like I loved writing, but the money was so bad. And I think a turning point, like if we're, I don't know, maybe if I'm jumping ahead, but one of the turning points was like I was writing. It was like this outlet. It was a tech outlet that paid basically like they pay you $20 for a blog post. But then, yeah, seriously, no joke. But then if they got a lot of hits, you would get a bonus on your hits. So every 1,000 views or whatever, you'd get a bonus.
Of a dollar.
That?
Of a dollar.
Yeah, and it was like, but in the one instance, I wrote a piece that just like it didn't really go viral, but enough where I got like over the course of a couple of months, I probably got like $600 off it, off something that started at 20. So I'm like, so that almost made me like think, oh well, if I can make $600 off one post.
Yeah.
I mean, this was back in 2013, maybe. Like I don't know, but it just once you, I know the whatever it is that's going to give you that confidence.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, but whatever that is, you have to just bottle it and just go with it
and remind yourself of it. Yeah. And I think, oh, of course.
Puppy.
Luckily, my husband's going to be editing these, so he can edit this out.
Yeah.
I think he's done. All right. So.
That's so cute. Keep it frustrating, I'm sure. Like, I'll kill that dog.
He's very sweet. He's doing his job. That's his job.
So, yeah.
Wes and I always try not to yell at him for barking at the door because that's his job. If someone starts in, he's supposed to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that was one of those turning points for you. What was the actual turning point that took you from being in IT and doing cybersecurity and being an employee? What made you go, all right, I've had enough. I need to go out on my own and build my own thing? So
it was probably when we moved. We live in Kelowna, British Columbia, which is a beautiful place, wine country. It's a nice. we love it here. But when we moved here, I left a job with the government doing cybersecurity. We moved here for another cybersecurity job, but this one had me travel from Kelowna to Boston every couple of weeks. And so it's like, you're on the red eye from Seattle, you fly to Seattle, have dinner, you wait a couple hours, red eye, you get into Boston, 6:30 in the morning, and then drive your ass right to work into the office and like do your thing. And it was fun. Like I'm glad it happened because it was a great experience and learning, Boston, really cool city, and I loved it there. But I just burnt out really fast, like really, really fast. And I only lasted at that job for about 9 months. And I just knew. What's that?
How many days did you have to stay in Boston when you would do this?
It would usually be like maybe 3-4 days. Sometimes if it was kind of worked out, like if it was like a Wednesday to Friday, I'd stay an extra day or two and hang out with people in the office, and they'd show me around. But it was tough because we had just moved here, and my wife's at home and she's like moving things in, and we're just in the process of moving our lives from Winnipeg. And yeah, it was tough. And we had our niece that was, here, and we were taking care of her and driving her everywhere. And so it's just being away and being stressed because it was a stressful job. And I just, it just kind of hit, like I knew I was getting to that point where it's like, I'm basically at burnout level, and I don't want to be at a level where it's worse than burnout.
Yeah.
Like, so I could kind of see the signs, and, I had that conversation with my boss, and we just kind of like, this is just not working out. And took a couple of months off, and I decided I wanted to write about cybersecurity because I was always good at it. I always liked it. Don't have the writing background, but I just thought I'm going to give this a try. And I started writing for free for a local outlet. And they published my stuff, and then the newspaper would publish it. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can, even though I was doing it for free, and then with the newspaper, they start to pay a little bit. And it was like not a lot of money, like nothing you could live off of. But it got me to learn and to know that writing was, having some sort of creative outlet was really good for me. And the corporate world was not so good for me.
Yeah.
And just kind of, just knocking on more doors and pushing the outlets to say, hey, how can I make money? How can I make more money? Like, just even then, where I didn't really have any confidence in writing, I was confident enough to know, or at least to know, like, hey, I need to make money out of it. And, just bugging them all the time. Like, how do we make money? Like, how do I make money? I want to write. And that's why I started writing about celebrity gossip because they wanted that.
Yeah. So that was like your low hanging fruit of, this is accessible. I can do this. This is your foot in the door.
It was. And it also gave me a lot of insight into not so much SEO, but what words worked. Like, because I had control of the local news site's homepage, so I could see every post what the numbers were, and even by the minute, by the second, by the hour. So I got really involved in, like, how can I use this to my advantage? Like, this was super early in my writing career, and I had access to these numbers. And so I'd put out a celebrity gossip headline, and I would know within 30 seconds whether it was going to work, because they had so much traffic. Like, this local company had so much traffic that you could see, like, and within 2 minutes, if it wasn't doing well, I'd change it. And then 10 minutes later, maybe I'd change it again. And then I would work with the news team about headlines, and we'd talk about, okay, is this headline working? Is this not working? And so you really get a good grasp of what, even for, like, in content marketing, what hits those points with people, whether it's negative emotion or positive emotion or whatever. Obviously with news, if it bleeds, it leads kind of thing, obviously those do really good numbers. But the other ones, the ones that maybe aren't so sensationalistic, take those headlines, like, play around with the words a little bit. And so I was fascinated by that. I really liked seeing how just one little word would, like, really increase or decrease the page views on something.
That relationship between diction and performance is so huge, and you really can't guess. You can't just assume, oh, this is going to work, or go off of, headline analyzers. You have to actually put it out there and see how your specific audience is going to respond to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it was an early lesson that I really liked. And so I became good at just writing headlines and things that I knew would kind of work for usually general audience. But
what was that early conversation like with your wife when you said, hey, I don't want to go back to being an employee, I'm going to start my own business? What was that like?
It was actually, I'm really, really lucky in that respect that she was super supportive of that. Because well, and plus she saw the effects of what that job was doing to me when I was always going to Boston and coming back tired and just stressed. Like she saw the stress and she knew, what it was doing to me. And so she just was really supportive and she's just like, I'm there for you. Like I'm totally good with it. And she knew too that the first couple of years, which they were, it was not going to be easy financially because it wasn't like it was, it was a struggle. Like for a couple of years, we, lived on credit cards and, loans and things like that. Like it, but she was so supportive. And because of that, and that helps too. I think if you have a really supportive spouse or partner or best friend or whatever, like that helps so much. Because if you don't, then that, I don't know, because I've seen it happen with other business owners or even freelance writers that they don't have a supportive partner or a support system. And then it's like, you're only going to get so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's so many people in the Chiron community in our Slack channel who they don't have that. They don't have the support of a partner, or they are literally going it alone. Maybe they're single, maybe they've moved away from their family, and nobody in their life gets what it's like to be a freelancer and a business builder. And so having that community, if you don't have that in your life, that's okay. There are communities where you can get at least as close to that as possible. Of course, it's not going to be the same thing as the person you live with and share a bed with being supportive of what you're doing and building. But still, if you're feeling that, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. I'm so lonely. I don't know. You need that social support.
Oh, totally. And that's just absolutely critical. So I give my wife so much credit for that, for standing behind me and helping me. And also too, like another thing that we sometimes forget about is like the friends we have, like even a spouse or partner or whatever aside, the friends we have, like if you have friends that are really not loser, but just are, just not driven or not motivated, and they're just kind of, whatever, or you don't need to ghost them, but it's almost good to, especially when you're starting your business, it's good to have like maybe new friends that are already doing their own business and hanging out with them, or we can't really hang out together right now, but whether it's a Zoom call or just whatever, like just having connections with people that are doing what you're doing, or that makes a big difference. And for me too, that wasn't cutting out friends, but just maybe like lessening the time I spend with them or communicate with them.
I'm talking about not talking about work stuff. Because if you're talking with someone who is a close friend of yours who is also a freelance writer, or maybe you're a freelance designer, or whatever it might be, but if they're still making pennies and you're like, I've had enough of that, bottom of the barrel shit, I want to make some real money here, but you're still talking about that business stuff with that person, you can only rise to the level of the smartest person in the room. And so you have to put yourself in the room with people who are smarter than you, so that you can push yourself to be better and better.
Yeah, that's so important, and it's tough to do, because these are like pretty big life decisions, like changing who you hang out with or changing kind of lifestyle or whatever. But yeah, it's a big thing. But I think in business, like without those big decisions or making those big calls, you're not going to get over that hump. So
yeah. So what was it like? Because you mentioned that you started out working for free, and now you kind of keep in mind your hourly rate. And I'm sure anybody who knows me and is listening to this is going, oh my God, Ray's going to bite his head off because I'm so anti hourly rates. But it's like you just use that kind of as a litmus test of, am I on track? It's kind of your buoy.
Yeah.
and you don't actually bill hourly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm with you. I just hate hourly rates because
Yeah.
it's impossible. Like if so yeah, I
You're
try to.
fast. You
What's
make,
that?
if you're good and you're fast, you make less than someone who is new and takes longer to write the same piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about the quality. Like if you've been doing it for 10 years or whatever, and it's gonna take us like 30 minutes to do something and someone else 5 hours, like even though it took us 1/10 of the time, it's probably maybe 10 times better. I don't, just so yeah, the hourly thing, it's just always just kind of in my head, and I don't like I not like refuse to bill hourly,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it's just in my head, and it's just kind of like every year I kind of want to make it a little higher, but as long as I'm doing it, it's good, and sometimes, of course, sometimes you're working on projects where that hourly rate is crazy good.
Yeah.
And sometimes obviously it isn't, but
Yeah.
it just depends on the project. But you love those projects where it's like, man, did I really make that much per hour? Like that only took me 2 hours. Like, did I really make that much? And those are the times where you're just like, it just gives you extra motivation because you're like, damn, that's really good.
Totally. Yeah. I've had those moments where I'll finish a project that I've been putting off for so long, like a strategy project or something that I just really didn't want to do. But by the time I finish it, I'm like, oh, that took me 2 hours, which means I made $1,400 per hour. What was I bitching about? you know, but
Did you actually make 1,400 on something?
what's that?
Did you actually make 1,400 an hour on something?
Sometimes, yeah, with like strategies and
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
I kicks the shit out of mine.
But those are rare. I mean, we don't make that on blogs and case studies and
Yeah.
things, but it's like the foundational stuff. Yeah, I think 1,400 is probably the highest I've ever made an hour on a project. But of course, you also have to factor in how long did it take me to get that client? How long did it take me to
Right.
get the invoice
Of
back
course.
and forth, and all those things. But what I was wondering was, now I know a little bit about your figures, and I know for your blogs, oftentimes you're charging in the high three figures, sometimes the low four figures for a single blog post. So how did you go from doing free work in the beginning, and then you had those $20 blog posts that you were doing? How did you go from that to this point where you're now charging on that high end of the spectrum of what you can get for blog content?
Um, Again, I think it was the just being picked up on Contently for NBC Universal, and that was like I want to say, I don't know if it was 2014 or 15. I'm not, and like they were paying, even then it was like 700 per post or 750, and then it just kind of, just when you've had it once or twice, it's just kind of what you charge. And there are some, depending on the client, because some clients just don't have that budget. Like if I want to charge like $1,000 for a 750 word post, like a lot of clients don't have that budget. Um,
So
so
what do you
I'll
do in those cases when the client doesn't have the budget for a $1,000 750 word blog post? What do you do?
Yeah, and the what I'll usually do is I'll just say, okay, how many blog posts can we do like over the course of like the next 3 months? Like how many blog posts can we work on? And if I'm going to do it at a lower rate, um, as long as there's flow coming, and I just won't spend. I'll try not to spend as much time on it.
Mhm.
Not that I don't take, because I take pride in everything I do. Like I always want it. Like I'm not. You kind of get over the perfectionist attitude. Like I don't want it. It'll never be perfect, because if we aim for perfection in every post, we're in trouble. Time wise, we're in trouble. So I just try to, like, I guess, tone down the perfectionism even more for those, even though like they're, I want it to be really, really good. Like every post I want it to be really good, but just kind of know that, okay, I'm just, it's going to even out, because there's going to be a client that's going to pay 1,500 for the exact same length. So it just kind of evens out.
Yeah.
I guess I think that's kind of the way I think about it.
And
Um,
you're working with the client to see, okay, if that's not doable for you, then what is? And
right.
if what is doable for you, am I willing to do that? Well, maybe we can kind of meet in the middle if there's a long-term commitment for ongoing work.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what it is. Like if it was just a one-off thing, or like, hey, can you do two posts for, less than what I normally would take? Is like, probably not. And, I just, say no. But if there's a way to make it work where it is beneficial for my business and beneficial for them and everybody's happy, then yeah, we'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also depends on like how, like if I'm super busy or not. But yeah, that's kind of the way I think about it.
Well, and it seems like, and I'll end on this final question that I wanted to ask you. And this may just be me being 1,000 miles away from you and, on the outside looking in at Mark's amazing life, from a distance. But you are one of the people I know who is the best, in my opinion, from my perspective, at work-life balance. Every time we talk, you tell me, oh, I went for a walk at lunch, or, later Rena and I are going bike riding, or, we went out to the island this weekend, or you're always incorporating those things. And I think that is a really important thing to talk about in the context of when you're saying yes or no to a client. So, you just mentioned how if a client doesn't have the budget for $1,000 blog post, sometimes you're willing to come down. But I think, say a little bit about what's the most important thing to you. Obviously, it's not the money. Otherwise, you would never say no to a client.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have this very advanced, compared to many of us freelancers, perspective on putting the quality of your life first.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I really appreciate you saying that. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, I think that was just I don't know. I always find if I'm working all the time, like just constantly, just my brain just, and maybe that was part of the, when I would go to Boston and just, be really stressed, just like, it was all work, work, work. And when I was here, they had a sales office here in Kelowna, and it would be like I would be such an outlier just for taking a lunch, like and it would just like that would be my only break, just take like 45 minutes just to walk out or whatever, and no one else did, and it was just like, am I crazy? Like, why am I the crazy one? And so just I don't know. I just kind of wanted to always have that balance, and I don't want to work like that much during a day. Like obviously it's important. Like if there's stuff to do, you need to do it. But I try to schedule my day where there is always some time for like just a walk or whatever. And, there's always, if you can't get something done during the day, there's always evening time. Like that's the great thing of having your own business. Like as freelancers, we could just, if it's 9 o'clock at night and you have some time and you just need to finish something up, you just, open up the computer and you just do it.
Yeah.
And it's like you have that, we have so much time. We do actually have so much free time. And it's just a matter of like maximizing it to the best as we can, whenever that, and just learning your own rhythm too, like circadian rhythm. Like if you're good at night or if you're good in the morning, like just kind of schedule your day around it. Like and that's a hard thing to do, like just getting used to that.
Yeah.
When you're starting out.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about that in my workshop, the one we did back in January, and I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's the Energy Aligned Success Schedule workshop, where you actually, before you even do your schedule planning, you track your energy map for 3 days.
That's really good.
Like, what's your actual natural energy? And then what activities do you have to include in your schedule that cause your energy to go up or come down, and strategically placing those along that wave. It sounds like you've really done that in a more natural, organic way. And what I love about what you said was that you just keep thinking back to the time when you were working in Boston, and it just being that stressed wasn't worth it, which is why you called it quits on being an employee. And I think a lot of us freelancers tend to trade that employer imposed stress for self-imposed stress. And what's the point? It's all the same thing. You're still stressed, you're still miserable. And so if you're doing that to yourself, if you're still stressing yourself out, then why take on the burden and the risk of being a freelancer and building your own business and bringing in your own income when you're not getting the benefits of free time and health and relaxation and quality of life?
Yeah, exactly. It's so like, and that like that should be the reason that we're doing what we're doing, like being freelancers. So we do have a little more quality of life than someone in the corporate world or in the, that has like working for someone. Yeah, like that's why we're doing what we're doing. I think we all want that, and it's a matter of like finding that balance with it and like your energy, finding that energy level. Like if you could track it, that's so good. Like that would, and if you schedule your time around it, you become just, even if you're a super corporate person and then you start doing it. Like I've seen a friend that he's kind of just working for himself, even, well, he's not, he's working for a company, but he's working from home, and it's kind of like he's a solopreneur, and he had to find that schedule. And he, once he did, it's like so good for him. Like he'll take hikes at certain times, and you just find it. And yeah.
And it snowballs, right? Like the benefits snowball.
The benefits, yeah, like it's all, I don't know, it all kind of works out in a way. Like it's weird how things just kind of work out if you really not meticulously, but like plan things and track things, and
Yeah. And you lean into what comes naturally for you when you don't resist it. I see so many people, they're like, oh, I have to get up at 5 a.m. to be a successful entrepreneur. And I have to have this perfect morning routine of meditation and exercise. And I'm like, are you kidding? I can barely walk across my living room at 5 a.m. I do happen to get up at 5 a.m. just because that's when my husband gets up. It's not by real choice. It's
not by choice.
Well, it is by choice. I've chosen to align my schedule to his so I can spend more time. Yeah. But I'm not going to try and have this like so-called perfect, entrepreneur morning routine when I'm dead ass tired in the morning. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah,
so I schedule my workouts in the middle of the day. Like you have to think back to, and we can kind of end on this note that you have to think back to, why did you start doing this in the first place? Why did you start building your business? Why did you leave that corporate world or that W-2 world to build your own thing? And are you honoring that? Are you respecting yourself enough to give yourself what you needed all along?
Exactly. And yet you do have to be true to yourself in that way. Like that morning routine, like I was guilty of like, oh, the morning, the miracle morning, I think was the book.
Eldad.
Oh, yeah. And and this is when I was first starting out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to get up and do the, and I just I almost burnt out just trying to fit myself into that mindset. And I think when we're starting as freelancers, we do that so often. We just we're not sure of ourselves, and we're not sure of how we can contribute to this business and make it work. So we try to take all this external information and books and mindsets and try to fit ourselves into where it's really like, that's not us. And so if we really learn who we are, how we work, and it just, that is such a key. And I think that will be so helpful to every freelancer. Just, like it's so cliche to be yourself and learn to be happy with yourself and how you work, but it totally works.
Yeah, it really does. That's every freelancer business owner I know who's successful. They started experiencing success in their business when they're like, fuck it, I'm going to stop doing what everybody else says I'm going to do, what I should do, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. And that's the key. That's the tipping point.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, thank you so much for being here. Where can people check you out if they want to learn more about you and your writing group?
Just markstonewritinggroup.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Mark Stone, and I'm there. I don't, I don't really actively look for clients. So I'm just out there, like,
Just hanging out, letting the universe.
I'm just hanging out. I'm pretty chill. So,
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
yeah, thank you so much, Ray. This was fantastic. I really appreciate talking to you.
Awesome. Hey, it's Ray again. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, and more. And want to be a guest on the show or know someone who has an amazing story of entrepreneurship? Apply on our website at www.chironconsulting.us/podcast.